Order number 6, notices of motion.
Leader of Majority.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motions: that this House adopts the first report of the Committee on Appointments on the vetting of 9 Cabinet Secretaries nominees, Volume 1 and Volume 2, for the appointment to the position.
I stand on motion, Standing Order 52, on motion raising issue of privilege, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah.
Mr. Speaker, issue of privilege in the tradition of the House, I'm told, takes precedence, and I wanted to bring it to your attention, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, while we were away on recess, Mr. Speaker, there was a serious crackdown that happened in this country when Parliament was on recess, Mr. Speaker, on both members of Parliament and non-members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, ordinary Kenyans. But, Mr. Speaker, the one I wanted to put to your attention, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of the members of the House, Mr. Speaker, especially members of the NASA coalition, which I seek for your indulgence and your ruling on it, Mr. Speaker, that they have lost their security, Mr. Speaker. They are all withdrawn by the Inspector General of Police, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Speaker,
Order members. The member for Suna East, who is the minority whip, shall be heard.
Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for your protection. Mr. Speaker,
he must be heard.
yes.
And those who have contrary views will be also heard. So the best thing on the first day is to remember that.
Mr. Speaker, members of Parliament, since I joined Parliament, Mr. Speaker, in the 11th Parliament, Mr. Speaker, have been enjoying the privilege of having security, Mr. Speaker, provided by the National Police Service, Mr. Speaker, which is an independent constitutional office, Mr. Speaker, and facilitated by the Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, in terms of remuneration, Mr. Speaker. And this issue has history Mr. Speaker, in Parliament as the reason and the wisdom why Parliament decided to provide security for members of Parliament, Mr. Speaker. But, Mr. Speaker, the manner in the way they have been withdrawn, Mr. Speaker, because once you come to the House, Mr. Speaker, you become the property of the Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker. Our employer is Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, that you chair. And, Mr. Speaker, it is very, very bad when a section of members of Parliament have their security and another section, Mr. Speaker, do not have any security, Mr. Speaker. And they all represent constituencies, Mr. Speaker, and they were all elected on the same terms and conditions by the Kenyan people, Mr. Speaker, to represent and to oversight, Mr. Speaker, under the Constitution, Article 95, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the way the police now is behaving is like instead of being Utumishi kwa wote, they are becoming Utumishi kwa Jubilee, Mr. Speaker. And they only want to protect Jubilee members, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, to add insult to injury, Mr. Speaker, the leadership of the NASA coalition, Mr. Speaker, that is recognized in the House, Mr. Speaker, under the Constitution and the standing orders, Mr. Speaker, were facilitated, Mr. Speaker, with parliamentary vehicles, Mr. Speaker. They were all withdrawn, Mr. Speaker, by the police outside the gate of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, in the most crude and immoral manner, Mr. Speaker, you can think of, Mr. Speaker. My minority leaders come, Mr. Speaker, was withdrawn outside Parliament, Mr. Speaker, and the driver was told to get out and collect your items inside the car, Mr. Speaker. When the vehicle, Mr. Speaker, belonged to the Parliamentary Service Commission, Mr. Speaker, and not the executive, Mr. Speaker, of this country. Mr. Speaker, this is an affront to the independence of the Parliament, Mr. Speaker. There is a deliberate attempt, Mr. Speaker, to retard Parliament to where it was during the KANU days, Mr. Speaker, as a department of the Office of the President, Mr. Speaker. And members of Jubilee may think that now they are enjoying the perks because they are in a form of some government that is not yet even known. But tomorrow it might happen to them, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I seek your indulgence, Mr. Speaker. I seek your guidance, Mr. Speaker, and your ruling, Mr. Speaker, to affirm, Mr. Speaker, the independence of the third arm of government called the legislature, Mr. Speaker, which you heard, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter of national importance.
There's a point of order from a member for Endebess.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With all respect to the minority whip, Mr. Speaker, he made the comment to say that the Jubilee side is in a sort of a government. Mr. Speaker, I want him to withdraw that and apologize, because that is derogatory, that is demeaning to the government that is elected and legitimately in place. Mr. Speaker, that is unparliamentary. I think he needs to withdraw and apologize, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I think did you say the members of Jubilee are in a or, no, they cannot. Sorry,
Speaker,
members.
Mr. Speaker, I didn't say that, but you know.
No. If that's what you're saying, I think you should withdraw that.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I didn't say that, Mr. Speaker.
No,
but you know, when you are bordering Uganda, English can be confusing, Mr. Speaker.
No, Honorable Jeanette.
Yes.
You know the ones you used.
Yes.
You are now denying that you used those ones. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, if we check the handset and you are refusing to withdraw, you know the consequences.
Mr. Speaker, what I said is this.
No. You know the consequences of refusing to withdraw.
No, but I didn't say anything wrong. No, don't intimidate me, man, you people. Mr.
Honorable
Speaker, I
Jeanette,
said they're in a sort of government.
Honorable Jeanette, you know the ones you used.
Yeah? Yes, Mr. Speaker.
You are saying you are denying that you used those ones.
No, I did not use.
You didn't?
Yeah, I did not. The words that Honorable is saying, I didn't say. I said other words. That they're in a sort of government. Of government.
Honorable Jeanette, you know, it is not going to be. Honorable Jeanette, honor members. You see, you cannot laugh as much as you wish to. And I know you have just come from a long recess. But here it is serious business. You cannot just say that you didn't say that you used some other ones. Which ones? Which ones did you use? They came from your mouth. The ones you remember now, you appear to have forgotten so soon. Which ones did you use?
Mr. Speaker, I said that members of Jubilee are in a sort of government, Mr. Speaker. And that is nothing wrong with it. It's a government that they understand in their own ways, that we don't understand, Mr. Speaker, ourselves. That's what I meant, Mr. Speaker. So understanding it is different from Mr. Speaker, the way he understands it. The way you understand Jubilee government is not the same way I understand it, Honorable. So you're in a sort of government that you only understand, Mr. Speaker. That's what I mean. Mr. Speaker, no.
Honorable Jeanette, this is the first day. I will not allow those kind of careless ones being bandied around here. You have to
represent, Mr. Speaker, members of this this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, someone is telling me you have your own president, Mr. Speaker. But Mr. Speaker, if I'm allowed now to go and get bodyguards from my president, Mr. Speaker, I know I will get, Mr. Speaker. If that is the way people want us to go, the way the majority is saying, Mr. Speaker, I will get very serious bodyguards, Mr. Speaker, who will protect me day and night, Mr. Speaker. But I thought I belonged to a house which is governed by the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, and the standing orders. Mr. Speaker, this parliament has come from far, Mr. Speaker. You have served as a whip, Mr. Speaker, of this parliament during KANU times, Mr. Speaker, when parliament was being micromanaged by the executive, Mr. Speaker. Are we going back to that era, Mr. Speaker, where we have to report, even line at the office of the president to earn allowances and remunerations, Mr. Speaker? Mr. Speaker, this is an independent arm of government, and it was in the wisdom of the constitutional framers that they provided a service commission, Mr. Speaker, for this parliament, Mr. Speaker, which you chair. Mr. Speaker, I think we have the duty to uphold and protect the Constitution, Mr. Speaker, that we swore to, Mr. Speaker. And that protection comes by respecting the provisions of the same Constitution, Mr. Speaker, which has created minority party and majority party, Mr. Speaker. Honorable Duale, as majority leader, is roaming around in town, Mr. Speaker, with 4 cars, Mr. Speaker, which belong to this parliament, Mr. Speaker. And minority leader of this parliament is footing, Mr. Speaker, is on foot, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker. The Syrian that makes a lot of noise near parliament belongs
What's
to
your point of order, leader majority? Honorable Junet, you have mentioned him specifically. You say that he is roaming about.
Mr. Speaker.
What is the problem today with the choice of words, Honorable Junet?
Mr. Speaker, I am not going to challenge my colleague on the Rumi. Mr. Speaker, the matter that you are being told to address yourself to the Speaker, and parliamentary precedence has that you must quote the relevant laws, the relevant standing orders, and relevant regulations that gives a member of parliament the right to get security, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, if you allow me, in the 10th parliament, which I served with a great mindset like Honorable Olagwa Watch, a member of parliament for Embakasi then, Honorable David Were, may his soul rest in peace, was killed. And later, 1 week later, the member for parliament for Ainamoi in Kericho was killed by a police officer in Eldoret over some family issue. The Speaker then, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Kenneth Marande, wrote then to the then Commissioner of Police and asked in his wisdom that because of the circumstance, members of parliament should be given security. Speaker, that is the only thing I can find out. There is no provision in the Constitution. There is no provision in any relevant law. There is no provision in the standing orders and in the regulations that govern the National Police Service Commission. So, Mr. Speaker, you are being asked to rule or to give direction on a matter that has no basis in law. And Mr. Speaker, because today is our first day, Honorable Junet, is used to the fake swearing in. He is used to the statements they were making over the funerals. Now he has forgotten that this afternoon he has entered the August House. Speaker, the House must be run through either the standing order, the Constitution, or precedents and practices of and communications given by former speakers or other jurisdiction similar to us. So, Mr. Speaker, before he moves to ask you to rule on something, I challenge him as a minority leader that you should not take the House in circus. Tell us which law, which standing order, and which regulations. If you don't have, Mr. Speaker, we have important business to deal with. You should shut up and sit down.
I can see the leader of minority is agitated. Let's hear him.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I know the House has been entertained fairly well by my whip and my counterpart, the other side, the leader of majority. But, Mr. Speaker, I think the matter that has been raised is to me a very serious matter. It's a matter that is touching on the security of members of this parliament. As a matter of fact, I'm not looking at it at my individual capacity as MP for Suba South, or either as MP for Suba South or as the leader of minority, but I'm looking at the institution of parliament, the independence of parliament, the privileges that are being accorded to members of parliament as members of parliament, regardless of political party affiliation, regardless of your power or friendship with other organs outside parliament. Mr. Speaker, the question one needs to address is, are members of parliament extended to them is the privilege of security or not? If that is the case, if that privilege is extended to members of parliament, it must cut across. It must be from both sides of the House. Mr. Speaker, this constitution did not make a mistake of creating the majority and minority parties or coalition of parties. We are here by rights, we are here by the constitution, we are here by virtue of being voted by the people of Kenya. Mr. Speaker, Honorable Duale talked about that this is a privilege that we got just because the Speaker of the National Assembly then, the Honorable Marende, wrote a letter. I also sat with him in that 10th Parliament, and it is true that it's a privilege that we started enjoying. But Mr. Speaker, even the court of law in this country has reaffirmed the same. I remember last Parliament, the Honorable Timothy Bosire, the police service decided without any justification to withdraw his security. And the courts reaffirmed that you cannot discriminate against any member or a group of members of Parliament. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, for me, really, I'm not so scared about my security. In fact, I've even realized that being without security is really refreshing because it's a life that I've not enjoyed for quite some time. I was reading somewhere that someone was trying to purport that I tried to ask Duale to intervene. I've never spoken with Duale since I lost my security and the car. So I can't plead with Duale. It's just a leader of majority and leader of minority. We are supposed to be equal, actually, in terms of power. Mr. Speaker, and we are actually equal. So, Mr. Speaker, I really don't have time to ask Honorable Duale for any favor because he doesn't have that power, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we want to address this matter to the right authority. And we are addressing you, Mr. Speaker, not just as the Speaker of the National Assembly, but also as the Chairman of the Parliamentary Service Commission, that apart from the issue of security and the vehicles, where one of my vehicles was taken away, I'm even wondering why they have not taken another one. Because anyway, I have my vehicles. If anything, the people of Kenya were very generous. They have given me car grant to buy another vehicle, so I can use my personal vehicles. But Mr. Speaker, the fundamental question is, am I not holding a constitutional office as the leader of minority? In fact, that is where I am more concerned. Mr. Speaker, I just want to wind up, that my concern is that we need to, you may not like Mbadi as a person. I'm not referring to the Speaker here now. I'm saying someone somewhere may not like Mbadi, but there is the office of the leader of minority. And I happen to occupy that office as we speak. And Mr. Speaker, it was such a shame that the Secretary to the Parliamentary Service Commission, who is the clerk to the Senate, was not even aware that someone had taken property that belongs to Parliament, which is the vehicle that was assigned to me by Parliament, and taken it to vigilance. In fact, the clerk has been following to have the vehicle brought to Parliament. Even if they were to take it, didn't they have the courtesy to have it stored and kept in Parliament? Mr. Speaker, the independence of Parliament is under attack. And Mr. Speaker, I would not be, are you telling me that someone can wake up one day and decide to pay my salary or not to pay because that person perceives me as not his friend? And by the way, the leadership of minority is not expected to praise the leadership of Jubilee. We cannot, we will not, and we will continue to attack the leadership of Jubilee. It's not our business to praise Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta. That is not our business. We are not here to do that, Mr. Speaker. And whether someone likes it or not, you take security, you don't take it, you take the vehicles, you don't take it, we will still tell you what we believe. And that will not change, Mr. Speaker. If someone is trying to intimidate us on that, I think that person is dialing and touching a wrong live wire, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am addressing you, and I don't know why our colleagues should be agitated. It's not your security that is taken. It is our security. And we are addressing the leadership of the Parliament. It's not your leadership. This is now our Speaker. This Speaker does not belong to Jubilee. He belongs to the National Assembly of Kenya. He belongs to the PSC, is the chairman of the PSC. And we created his position. Mr. Speaker, we created your position as the chairman of Parliamentary Service Commission in this constitution. This constitution was not voted by Jubilee alone. It was voted by Jubilee. It was voted by NASA. You must remember that NASA people, supporters, also pay tax, which fuel these vehicles, including the ones that Duale is using. 4 of them. That vehicle is fueled and maintained by the people who pay tax, and the NASA people don't pay lesser tax. We also pay taxes. And Mr. Speaker, this is something that must be addressed, Mr. Speaker. It's not a matter that someone can just shout us down. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honour members, honour members, the issues being raised are not. I don't think whether honour members, the issues being raised. I don't think whether they're the kind of issues that if we engage in the kind of debate that I can say you want to engage in, will be that debate will even help, because these are matters that clarification from who? How? The chair has not raised any issue. The chair has not raised.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Finish your point. Finish your point. If you no, I know the part. Finish. I know the part. The person who is going to give some sober address to this issue.
Mr. Speaker, mine is blinking. Can I go ahead?
Yes. No.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
No, Honorable Sankok.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I was saying, Mr. Speaker, it's imperative, therefore, to you as Chair of the Parliamentary Service Commission to clarify to members that if it is a commission, the Parliamentary Service Commission, that is bestowed with that responsibility to ensuring that members are secure, is it just within the precincts of Parliament? Because if it is within the precincts of Parliament, Mr. Speaker, then every member of this House is secure. What members of Parliament do outside the precincts of the House then, Mr. Speaker, then we cannot bestow that responsibility of ensuring our security, even in our houses and in the other funny places that members may attend to after the official working hours. Lastly, Mr. Speaker, is on the question of vehicles. Again, we must appreciate, Mr. Speaker, sir, that those within the leadership of the House that are enjoying that privilege of having cars given by the Parliamentary Service Commission, it would be okay for the Honorable Junet to raise the question of vehicles being withdrawn. If, again, it is the Parliamentary Service Commission that has withdrawn those vehicles, it is, again, as he has clearly said, that those vehicles are parked within a police station at Vigilance House. We do not know why the Inspector General of Police has taken those vehicles. He could be investigating the particular members for crimes against humanity, for crimes of subversion, for other crimes that we do not know. And he is, as Inspector General of Police, obligated to take any vehicle or anything that he can take to carry on his work as an investigator. Therefore, we cannot, Mr. Speaker, be asking you again to tell us why vehicles have been taken away by another institution and not the Parliamentary Service Commission that we chair, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Member for Kisumu Town East. West, sorry. Honorable Olagwa Luoch.
Mr. Speaker, it pains me that this serious issue is now being trivialized as a NASA or Jubilee issue, when it touches on the security and privileges of all members. Today, it could be this side complaining, tomorrow it could be that side. So I want to pray, Mr. Speaker, that we all approach this issue as members of this House who have got a common destiny. But leaving that aside, I think the House needs to know that my friend, Honorable Gito Muigai, has resigned, has just resigned. His Excellency has accepted his resignation, and the President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Kiara, has been appointed as the new Attorney General of the Republic. Mr. Speaker, let me get back to the point. Let me get back to the point, Mr. Speaker. Speaker, let me get back to the point.
Okay, honour members, let's hear the member for Kisumu Town West.
Mr. Speaker, I was saying those so because both gentlemen are my friends. Mr. Speaker, I was getting back to the point, and the leader of majority said the truth when he said that this is a house of rules and precedents. What he didn't say is that this house also a house of customs. And the custom from the 10th Parliament is that members enjoy transport, members enjoy security. From my background, matters that touch on security as these ones are better discussed behind closed doors. And only if that fails do they be brought plenary. Mr. Speaker, I've been a commissioner in the PSC and I know what I'm talking about. This is a matter that I wish to urge you, Mr. Speaker, to deal with your commissioners as PSC, away from members' debate. Because when we debate here, I see now we are turning to inner NASA, inner Jubilee. That doesn't help us. Mr. Speaker, I urge you that let's stop this debate, put it before the PSC, and please address it in the best interest of the members. That's what I pray. Thank you.
Now, honour members, as I said, I knew the person who would address this, who would place this matter where it belongs. And it is the Honourable John Olagwaluoch. From the chair here, if I start engaging in that discussion, and I know I mentioned that the matter was reported, I think it said by the Honourable Junet through, what do you call that medium? WhatsApp. You use that medium, but I know some other senior members of your coalition have already drawn my attention to that issue, and it is being addressed. I think let's on this particular one, it has been addressed, and a solution is being found. Just, you know, if we make it now the matter for debate here, we are unlikely to make. No. You're speaking for Kenyans. You know, under 95(1), that's what you are elected to do, among other things. So, but in respect to this particular issue, let's not speak for Kenyans. We know that it is the responsibility of the government of the day to provide security to every Kenyan. So I think if we could just, and the members of parliament, certainly those who are here are Kenyans. What? Except that they may be Kenyans of, well, those are your ones. I think let's just leave them. Just know that is being addressed, Honourable Junet, Honourable John Bandi. My attention has been drawn to that since yesterday, and there's appropriate communication being done in that regard. Let's move to the order paper. Business on the order paper. You ready? Leader majority. The clerk had already read out order number 8.
Honourable Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Section 13 of the Public Appointments Approval Act relating to the extension of the period for consideration of nominees for appointment to state and public offices, this House resolves to extend the period for consideration of the nominees submitted by His Excellency the President for appointment to the office of